Weeks of testimony, days of jury deliberation end in a mistrial for Austin police officer Christopher Taylor.
This morning, the jury told the court they could not come to a unanimous decision on whether to find Taylor guilty or not guilty of murdering Michael Ramos while on duty back in April of 2020. KVUE's Tony Plohetsky and Isabella Basco join us with team coverage of what happened today.
We begin with Isabella, who was in the courtroom when the judge declared the mistrial today. Also, she had a chance to speak with the victim's family today. Isabella?
Brian and Ashley, for more than 34 hours, a jury deliberated to determine the fate of Officer Christopher Taylor, but the court received 3 notes from jurors saying they couldn't reach a unanimous decision, leaving the futures of those involved in limbo. So the state and defense agreed with the judge's decision to declare this case a mistrial. After the court adjourned, the defense had a chance to visit with the jury and learned that 8 jurors were convinced that Officer Taylor was not guilty of murder, and 4 jurors were convinced he was guilty. Defense attorney Doug O'Connell saying he isn't sure the state plans to retry Taylor for the same or a different charge, but makes it clear what he and fellow defense attorney Ken Irvin are prepared to do.
We're not done fighting for Chris, and we won't be done until he gets a not guilty verdict. And we'll go back, we'll figure out what we did well in this case, what we need to improve on, and we'll be ready. We'll be ready to come back here as many times as it takes until Chris is acquitted.
KVUE News asked prosecutor Gary Cobb to comment, but he declined. While we didn't see any members of the Ramos family in the courtroom, we did speak with his half-sister Clarvita McMillan on the phone. She testified in the trial and spoke about her half-baby brother.
It's just hurtful to me about this whole situation that justice did not get served at all for his life. You know, all the memories, holidays are coming up, and this is terrible.
Now, we also reached out to the lawyer of Brenda Ramos, the mother of Michael Ramos, for an interview, but Brenda declined, but sent us a statement which says in part, "My heart continues to break because it's been 3.5 years and there's still been no accountability or justice for my son's murder at the hands of the Austin police officer Chris Taylor. Justice delayed is justice denied." She also went on to say she's optimistic justice will eventually prevail and will continue to fight for justice for her son. Brian and Ashley?
Thank you, Isabella. Senior reporter Tony Plohetsky is joining us now. Tony, there are a lot of questions.
And in many ways, what happened today wasn't a huge surprise, was it?
The notes from the jury over the past several days were really the telltale sign. They were asking for information. They were asking for transcripts, for example. They were asking to see evidence again, for example. That's not unusual, but in their own words and notes they were sending to the judge, they were essentially saying, we cannot come up with a verdict. Today, around 9:15, the judge got a third and final note. She took a look at it, and they said that they were hopelessly deadlocked. And at that point, the judge then met with the parties, and it was decided that this case would, in fact, end in a mistrial.
So what happens now?
It's a big question, and one that certainly everyone is looking toward. The district attorney will likely sit down with his prosecution team over the next several weeks and decide whether or not they are going to retry this case. One thing that is important that has kind of gotten lost in the conversation, and that is Christopher Taylor faces an additional murder charge, not in this case, but in a totally unrelated 2019 shooting that happened in downtown Austin that resulted in the death of a man. And so prosecutors not only will have to decide whether or not to retry Christopher Taylor and the death of Michael Ramos, but which case may go first if they do, in fact, continue to move forward on the Michael Ramos murder charge.
All right. Senior reporter Tony Plohetsky with the latest. Thank you very much, Tony.
Well, Austin Mayor Kurt Watson weighing in on today's decision in a statement, writing he knows this will leave a lot of people frustrated, but also, quote, "We can't let this outcome divide our city," end quote. He went on to say, quote, "We have come a long way in terms of policing policies, training, and how transparent the city is and will be when these types of incidents occur. We have farther to go." Adding, quote, "And to our police officers, let me say that this community supports you and wants you to be a part of our efforts to create a safer city for all. We need you," end quote.
We, of course, will have more coverage of this decision coming up tonight on KVUE News at 6, and we'll bring you the very latest as we learn more about what will happen next.